Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. Today, we are discussing how to best set up your home for success with virtual school. Here with us today is Alley Hart, who is a teacher in Harford County. Thanks for being here with us today, Alley. To our viewers, please feel free to submit any questions that you have in the comment section, and we will try to get to as many as we can. Let's jump right in. So first, Allie, I'd love to hear just a little bit about you as a teacher, sort of where you're teaching, and maybe a little bit about your classroom before the pandemic. So viewers and listeners get a sense of sort of like who you are as a teacher and what you're transitioning from.
So I teach first grade at an elementary school in Havre de Grace, which is in Harford County. My classroom I try to do a lot of things very innovative. So something that I started a few years ago was flexible seating. And that's just it's just, the opposite of what a traditional classroom would look like. I don't have desks, I have tables. I also have ball chairs, which are just, like exercise ball on a little chair. And then I have bumpy seats for the texture, cushions, floor seats. I have lap desks, so if the student wants to sit on the floor or lay down, they can use that, or a clipboard. Just anything that helps them learn the best that they can, because obviously not everyone responds well to a hard chair, especially young kids in the primary grade level. So that's just really helpful for them to take ownership and control of their learning, and they get to decide. So they get to choose. I pretty much I would let them choose any way of seating daily, but a lot of times the kids, once they got comfortable with a certain seat, they would continue to use that one just because they liked how it felt as they were learning. And then obviously we would do all the modeling with that. In my classroom, we do a lot of hands-on things and group activities just to build that community. And something that I always like to instill in my kids is always be kind and helpful. And in our classroom, we call ourselves a family.
So it sounds like a lot of choice, but also a lot of diversity. So kids can choose a lot of different environments, and already having a bit of a family or home-like setup. So thinking about how parents can transition a classroom into their house, where would you suggest that parents think about setting up their child's workspace?
So there's really no right or wrong answer to this. Anywhere that the student can learn, obviously with as minimal distractions as possible. And I know that everyone's house is much different. I mean, some people have extra rooms, some people have extra space, some people don't really have extra space. So the people that don't really have extra space, I know that a lot of people have said they're going to use their kitchen table, dining room table, their family room, whatever. That's fine, as long as the child has access to the resources and materials that they're going to need. That just helps build independence, and it helps with organization, which again helps with independence, and less distractions on the parent. So for all the things that the child knows where items are and they're labeled and organized, then the parent that'll be less involvement for them during that learning time. I saw some people, which I thought was a really great idea, using those rolly carts from 3-tier rolly carts from IKEA or Target, for those people that can't set up like a space that's going to stay there. That's a really great way to organize materials that will be used. Now, if they have the space for to leave the items there, then that's great too. But I know a lot of people don't, so that's just another alternative.
So it sounds like you're really working on independence, which makes a lot of sense, especially with elementary school kids being at home with working parents. So anything that we can do to make things a little bit easier on parents and create that positive environment for kids. Okay, so we've got our rolly cart, or we've got our space in the house. What supplies and tools should be included in that space?
So, the normal school supplies, pencils, and along with pencils, you want to have a pencil sharpener. One of my teammates actually said that, and I was like, oh, that's a great thought. Like, we just don't think of that because it's always in the classroom, but at home, you might not have that unless you're using lead pencils or something. But then also a must would be headphones, I'd say, just, to alleviate the distractions for the student and for anyone else who's around them or nearby, parents, working parents, siblings. So that's really important. And I know that for my students, we've used headphones before. The earbuds aren't the greatest thing just because it ends up being a distraction because it's hard to get in or they fall out. So the bigger ones, almost like you have, it doesn't have to be fancy, like they sell them at Five Below, the dollar store, Target, the Target dollar spot. You can find them pretty inexpensively. But obviously, if earbuds are the only thing people have, that's better than nothing. So that, and then also since the students will be using technology devices, I would say some sort of case or maybe just somewhere that the student knows where to put that when they're done, because obviously we want to teach them good technology manners or etiquette, if you will, just to make sure that we keep them protected and safe. Let me think what else. Another helpful thing might be like little small whiteboards or like sheet protectors that they can use whiteboard markers with, just to have a reusable resource so they're not using paper all the time. And like I said, with the normal school supplies, notebooks, paper, any of that kind of stuff, it will be helpful because they will be doing some things non-virtually.
So a few things that you said, I was like, oh, yeah, definitely. So you're talking a lot about technology, even though we're talking very simple technology like headphones. So I think access to outlets and power. So whether that be like a power strip or whatever, that would be useful. So thinking about where in the house to set up having access to power. And I love your comment about pencil sharpeners because kids love a sharp pencil. I feel like particularly elementary school students, it's like, oh, if my pencil's not sharp, I can't do the work. So the importance of that, whether it be electrical or handheld. But all of these things are also really simple and certainly achievable for parents. What and you were talking about the sheet protectors, the plastic sheet protectors, and I feel like that's such a classic teacher hack and sneaky things that teachers do that parents wouldn't necessarily think of, that I think are just brilliant. Are there any more sort of off the top of your head that you can think of, that things that you implement in your classroom that maybe save money or make life easier for you or your students, that parents can implement at home?
I use timers a ton. So not even just for, I know in my distance learning ideas, I had a big thing on timers, and it doesn't have to be so explicit, but just having that, just so the student can see visually how much time is left. Those can be sand timers, kitchen timers, any kind of digital timers. And actually I have the kitchen ones from the dollar store, $1. They do beep, they're digital. So it makes noise, they know when it's over. However, it depends on the child too, like that could be a distraction. So in my classroom, some of my kids can use those, or sometimes they just watch it. So then I would use the sand timer, but then sometimes kids will watch that. So it really just depends on the child, what kind of timer to use. But those are really helpful for time allotments for assignments and tasks. And then also when it is a break time, to use that as well, so they know how much longer they have and there aren't any meltdowns or confusion on when to get back to work, because at the end of the day, this is still going to be a school day. We're still treating it like school. Just because it's in a different environment doesn't mean that the learning can't still occur, and then they can still be the best learner they can be.
I think that's important to remember too, is what each individual student needs, and that yes, a timer is a great tool, but what sort of timer really depends on the kid. And so making sure that you think about what would work best for your student. And just because it's on this list, it's like, well, maybe that's actually not going to work after all, and that's okay. And so parents being flexible enough and thinking about their own child's needs and really what makes the most sense.
Something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, please.
Something else that is really, really important. I mean, every teacher in America, I'm sure would agree. In the beginning of the year, we always go over rules and expectations, and we have posters, and we do it with the student, and we have visuals, and that just really helps get them ready for what it's going to look like. So doing that at home is really important, just because it is going to look different. It's going to be similar, but it's also going to be very different. So having a visual poster of the expectations and rules while learning. So that's also important to do with the child. I know I've said that a couple times, but it is just really important because it creates the buy-in for the student, just, to be able to get excited, and it creates that ownership that they're coming up with the rules and expectations with the parent. So they feel, in control, and they feel more empowered and excited to get the school year started. Just like setting up the learning environment, we want them to feel that sense of empowerment and excitement. So all of the things that are being done to prepare for the distance learning year, just making sure that we're doing it with the child so they can see what it's going to look like, and know the expectations ahead of time. Being proactive is really, really important. That's something that we talk about a lot in my school. We're a PBIS school, which is a positive behavior intervention and support school. So we do a lot of behavior interventions, and just being really positive. Like, we don't dwell on the negative. There's a lot of ignoring of that, but then as soon as the child does something great, we praise them. So that just gets them, it's just more successful, and they can be ready for the next thing instead of dwelling on something that wasn't so great.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of this is also, there's sort of a parallel to like positive parenting philosophy. So a lot of these ideas, which makes sense, here you are at home, just transferring it to the classroom. Now we're just going the other direction.
And it can be hard. I understand that. Even as a teacher, like, we weren't used to that when we first started it, and it's an adjustment, it's a mindset. But that's why I'm trying to help parents, because I know they're frustrated, and I know that they, I don't have all the answers, and they certainly don't have all the answers. No one has all the answers, but if we can all, be in this together, that's just going to set their child up for success.
Absolutely. So we've talked about choices, and then we just now talked about guidelines and expectations, and putting up a visual for the child to be able to see in front of their workspace, and making sure that you do that together with your child. So coming up with those rules together. Could you talk a little bit about maybe some other ideas you have to help actually get work done? I know one of the things that you've talked about and posted online is the idea of a first then chart. Could you just speak to that a little bit?
So a first then chart is just a really simple visual way for the child to know what needs to be done first, and then what you can do after. So the first would be maybe like the non-preferred activity, or the academic task or assignment that they're doing. And then the then would be like a little break or something that they get to do next. So it's not really like a schedule. It's not like you're saying, first we're going to do science, then we're going to do writing. You're saying, first you work on this math activity, then you can get 2 minutes with your Play-Doh. So it's just so they can see, okay, as soon as I'm done that, then I get to do something that I really want to do. So that really pairs well with the timer, because if you have that in front of them and the timer as they're doing their work, you can keep reminding them of that, and speaking to that, saying things like, as soon as you're done this, like, you can go do your Play-Doh, and then we'll come back and do something else. Or just getting that helps to motivate them through the activity, especially for those students that have a really challenging time staying on task. It just helps visually them, continue on, instead of it just becoming stressful and becoming a meltdown. It's a proactive way to get the students to complete the assignment to the best of their ability, and then doing something that's preferred.
Again, so talking about buy-in, so getting like the student excited to do even the less desirable tasks.
When it helps them not feel like they're being told. Like, I mean, of course they're told, but anytime an adult is saying, like, you need to do this because I said so, like, that's, the kid's like, because you said so, what? Like, I don't want to do that. So it just gives them like, hey, first we do this, then what do you want to do? Like, we'll talk, and having them choose. Again, that choice is really big. Makes them feel like they're in control. Having them choose the preferred activity. Obviously, it's not going to be something that's going to take a long time, but just something quick, easy that they can look forward to once they're finished.
Yeah. I think sometimes adults get caught up in that adult-child separation, but children are humans and we need to treat them with respect as well. And nobody likes being bossed around and being told what to do. So
I know, and I always try to take it back to as adults. Like as an adult, you don't want to hear because I said so. And yes, they're a child, but at the same time, you want them to feel like they, they can come up with these ideas on their own too. And saying because I said so isn't really going to get them to that end goal. So.
Right. Nor is it fostering independence.
Right.
So speaking about that, let's say you, a child is having maybe a challenging time. Could you tell me just a little bit about this idea of a calm space, and how it is different than maybe your classic timeout space?
Yeah. So the calm space is it's just what it's called, a space where the child can calm down. So in my school, actually, every single classroom has a peace corner is what we call it, but it's also, it's a calm space. And we proactively teach the students what it is, what it's for, when you would go there, why you would go there. Something that's really big also in our school is just like why. Teaching kids why we do things. So then again, that builds that independence. And that goes back to everything we've said. It's just talking to them, teaching them, guiding them. So the calm space would have a timer, maybe a beanbag chair, something comfy, cozy. You don't really want it to look like timeout because then it looks like a punishment. And let's be honest, every single person has emotions. We feel a certain way. I get angry. I'm sure you get angry, but we know appropriate ways to handle it. Well, a child doesn't have that skill set yet. So that's our job to teach them what they can do. So when you get angry, that's fine. It's okay. You can feel angry. But when you're angry or when you're upset, take 5 minutes in the calm down or peace corner, calm down space, whatever you want to call it in your house, to just relax, like do deep breaths that calms us down, being mindful of our breathing, and then maybe like squishing something with our hands, because I know when you're angry, you get really tense. So that's a really good way to teach them all those feelings that you might have when you're angry or upset, and then what you can do, like how you can channel it into something appropriate and positive. So it's really simple. You just have like a little space. We have a little rug in ours. We have a beanbag chair. We have one of those pillows that has the sequence that if you rub up, it goes a certain way and then rub down. And that's really satisfying and kind of channels their energy into something else. We have a weighted stuffed animal, which is really helpful because that pressure just helps calm them down. So that's really helpful. And I saw one at Target the other day. It was a little unicorn. I was like, this is great. But it doesn't have to be anything. You don't even have to get that. Maybe like some stress balls, some squishy balls, some things that I have put in mind that I can just print off. It's called a labyrinth. So you just it's like almost like a maze, and you would take your finger and slowly run it down from top to bottom of the maze as you're breathing. There are some other pictures that we have in ours. It's like a leaf or there's a flower, and it shows arrows where you can like run your finger. And as you're running your finger down, it shows you how to breathe in and breathe out. So just anything that will, bring the child from 10 to 2 in a 5-minute span. And if they need more time, then we always give them more time. We say, okay, are you ready to talk about it? And if they say no, then obviously they need a little bit more time. Obviously, you're going to have those kids that take advantage of it a little bit. And if your kid's going to do that or not. But a lot of times, by the time I'm ready to talk to them, they're calm. We can have a conversation, because you can't reason with, an angry 7-year-old. You just, both of you have to take a little time, calm down, and then you can talk about it. Because as adults, I know we get frustrated too. So that just really helps everyone. And then you're able to talk in a calmer way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the timer is really important there. I think I did mention that, but just using that timer to show them that, okay, here, you've taken 5 minutes to calm down. Are you ready to come out? Are you ready to talk about it? And then if not, that's fine too. And the sand timer is really good for that. That's what we use in the classroom, because that's another strategy. They can watch the sand come down, and that's just a way, another way to channel their energy into thinking about something else.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that I'm hearing you say make me think about meditation and meditation for kids and some of those practices that you can take from those philosophies and then apply during the school day or even during any day.
We do a lot in my class. Well, not my classroom. We do a lot in our school on mindfulness, mindfulness for ourselves, self-care, but then also mindfulness with our students. So like not really yoga, but any type of deep breathing exercises, belly breathing. So something else that we have in our Peace Corner is that it's like that plastic ball that expands and then you can push it down and it closes. And we use that as a visual to show our stomach, like deep breath and then letting it out, deep breath. And they can do that as they're breathing. So that's just another thing to do. But yes, we do a lot with mindfulness and meditating. It's not anything like feel like people think about yoga and it's like this big thing it's very popular now, but it's not so fancy. Like mindfulness is just breathing. It's just
Right.
like on your breathing and getting calm. So that's really all it is, and that's what we do with our kids too.
Yeah, it just sounds like it can be really, really effective. Let's talk a little bit about the power of routine. How important is it? Is it something that parents really need to stick to at home?
The answer is yes. Think about us. I always go back to adults. Like we have, we go through things too. And having a routine, having a schedule, having structure just helps you be more productive. So if we're more productive and we have a routine, then imagine what the kids could do with their routine. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy like routine. Get up at a certain time, you eat breakfast, you change your clothes, you feel better when you're out of your pajamas. You brush your teeth, and then you're ready to go at a certain time. So if they get up earlier, then they might have some extra time to do something. But if they get up late, then you're going to have to rush through that. So it's just about starting the day in a calm way. Like, they're not hungry because they've eaten breakfast. They're not thirsty because they, had their milk or whatever. They don't have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the teaching live because they've already done all of that. So it just helps build success right from the beginning, which, if you have a good morning, you tend to have a pretty good day. If you have, a rough morning, you got to come back from that. And that's way more challenging than starting off with a good foot.
Yeah, so true.
Also build independence. I know we mentioned that a lot too, but if this child knows the routine, they know the schedule, then they tend to, after a couple times of doing it with the parent, they just tend to do it by themselves. And that's a lot of times in the classroom, like there's like schedule for a reason because the kids, they know what to expect. There's no surprises. There's not going to be any like, oh, well, I wanted to do that. It's like, no, but this is what we do every day. And then once this is done, then you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked a lot about, so your expertise is first grade, but a lot of these ideas seem really transferable to either age up or age down. Do you have any of those specific suggestions on things to really keep in mind for either younger or older students?
So I feel like all of the tips and ideas, I teach first grade, so obviously that's what I think about and what I do in my classroom. So a lot of that is geared toward young learners, but for the older learners, the times could be adjusted, the timers, what you put in the calm down spot would look much different than what you might put in the younger kids' calm down space. So again, having the child be a part of that, because if they're a part of that, they will express what they find interesting or want to be in there. So it's really just comes down to the child and their needs because it's not a one size fits all. It's about knowing your child or asking them if you don't know. I mean, it's okay. To asking them, getting their input. I think that's just really important. And then it'll be tailored to your specific child.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again that buy-in is huge because if they don't want to do it, then that makes things that much harder.
Yeah.
So we are now starting a brand new school year, distance learning. And this is really different than last year because last year everyone started the year in the classroom and had time to create a bond with their teachers and create community with their classmates. This year, that's not how we're starting, at least for much of the country. Could you talk a little bit about how to create community virtually, and what are some things that parents can do to help the teacher foster those sort of relation building moments?
Yeah, so I think that as long as the parents are involved and, joining those meet and greets that are available to them, joining that back to school night, having the child next to you, that's showing the child that, my mom or dad whoever I'm living with is wanting to be a part of my school. So then that just allows them, it shows them that they want to be a part of it too. Children do what they see. So if the parent is all about it and so positive about it and excited, then usually that trickles down to the child. Another thing would be just providing support to the teacher, whatever that might look like, and especially communicating, because I know that a lot of times parents will, message another parent, ask them a question, and then maybe it doesn't look the same with their child's teacher or whatever the case may be. And then it's like the parent never really went to the teacher. And I know sometimes you don't want to be a burden, but honestly, the teachers would always rather the parent ask a question or clarify or communicate directly to them first, because usually that just dissolves the problem right away, rather than just a lot of roundabout other people getting involved or whatever. I just feel like communication is really important. And then just if the parents and the teachers are on the same page, the child is the most successful. So even though there are challenges and the learning environment might be different, and the parent is a lot more involved in the child's school day, it just shows the child that they can still do their best. Everything's going to be okay because my mom and my dad or my foster mom or my aunt or my uncle, whoever, and my teacher, we're all on the same page and they all want what's best for me. So.
I imagine that that's going to be even more challenging this year too, just because we don't have those face-to-face natural moments where you can, bump into a teacher or a parent and have those conversations like, oh, is my child struggling, or I'm worried about this or that. It's hard to have those natural moments. Now it's going to be either a scheduled conversation on some sort of video platform or an email, and so many details are lost through text or email. So I think that really does put a lot of pressure both on teachers and parents, but we got to up our communication game this year to make sure everyone's supported.
Yeah, so I'm sure that a lot of teachers do have like some sort of communication app. We use the app called Class Tag, which is really great because it's not as formal as an email. And maybe like, I know I give my phone number to my parents, but not everyone's comfortable with that, which is fine. So for the app, you can message right on there. You can do it from your phone. So it's just as easy as a text. You get notifications when there's a response back, but also I know for me I post a lot of pictures or a lot of like announcements or reminders on there. So it's almost like a Facebook feed, what it looks like, and I can keep adding stuff and then parents can like it or comment. So also that's really good for communication. So, just being a part of whatever the teacher's providing, like sign up for those types of things, try to attend as much of the virtual things as possible. I think that's just the best way to communicate and build that community among everyone involved.
Yeah, I think that really does emphasize the importance of relationship building between the parent and teacher, especially under the circumstances we're in right now, because a parent is going to be a lot more involved in the day-to-day learning than maybe they were traditionally involved in. Yeah. I have one more question for you, and I just want to talk briefly about positivity and the power of positivity and how it's important to remember, especially because I think, especially for younger students, they are so excited about school and going to school and seeing their teachers and touching and hugging and kissing their friends, and that's not available right now. So how can we make home learning fun, and what role does positivity have in that?
So obviously everyone's household or home, whatever they have going on looks different from house to house. And as long as the parents are positive and encouraging, I think that just really sets them up, the child up for success. So like even as adults, I know everyone, yearns for that positive verbal affirmation, whether it's from a spouse, whether it's from your boss, whether it's from a coworker, just, knowing that they're doing a good job makes you feel good. So the child is no different. They like to hear that they're doing a good job. It can be just even simple things like, wow, thanks so much for getting yourself ready to go without being told, or thanks for following that direction quickly. I mean, even not even saying like you're doing a good job, saying something like thank you, because it shows them like, oh wow, like my mom thanks me. Like it's just something as simple to us, but to them it means a lot. I know that in my classroom also, I write some little notes, like on even as simple as a Post-it note, or like, hey, you're doing a great job, or like, I'm really proud of you for XYZ. Parents can utilize that too, and I'm sure that the child will feel so great hearing that from their parent, even if they're in the room with them every single day. A handwritten note is something that they can hold on to. It's tangible, but it doesn't cost money. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just something that's really easy. Also being positive, we talked about, creates buy-in. So as positive as the parent is, the child will be, I feel like, positive on that parallel level. So if the parent is super excited, and even if they're really not, but showing their child that they're excited, then usually, the child feeds off of what they see. So that's really helpful. And then anything like if there are tangible things, like, stickers don't cost a lot of money. That's really helpful. Maybe not for the older kids, but that's why like a handwritten note, I think the older kids would love that too. I know like our 5th graders love anything like that. It just makes them feel good, and anything that makes us feel good, we want to continue doing, especially if that helps us in our success at school. You said, I think you said something else, but I can't remember.
Just how to use positivity to get through this year and try to make it as fun as possible, because I think it's really daunting to parents right now because we don't know when it's going to end. But we really worry about our kids and want them to have fun, because
Right.
school we think of as a fun place.
Right. I know that this all seems like a huge burden, which it is. It's very inconvenient, and we don't like to be inconvenienced. But for parents, just remember that it's inconveniencing teachers too. And we are here for you. So just reach out to your child's teacher. And if we can think about nothing else, it's just through this unprecedented and inconvenient time, it is something special per se, that your child will have these memories forever. So whether it's a positive memory or not so positive memory, it comes down to what they're seeing. So hopefully the more positive that we can be, then the more positive they will be, which will then create success and build that lifelong love of learning. So when they do go back to school, they're still positive about it, and not already, like, especially for our younger learners, not already disliking school because of what it was. So I can't really say enough about being positive. I know you have to talk about what's the problem so you can fix it, and I'm all for that too. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Can't change everything. We can definitely help it, but just trying to make the best of a situation that isn't what anyone really wants. So
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Allie, for being here with us today to address so many of our questions about how to really set up our home to get the most out of the space and make it as positive as possible for our students this year. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners as well. Make sure to visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for all the up-to-date local information on home, health, and living for today's Maryland parent. This episode will be archived at ChesapeakeFamily.com in video and podcast format. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thanks so much.
thank you.